there were points last season where the in-house media team would interview David Moyes after a game, and for want of a better phrase, they'd blow smoke up his arse. In fact, there's no better phrase. That's peak phrase. That's the best phrase you can get. They would. West Ham would be poor. We'd concede lots of goals. And this is no criticism of the people that were doing the interviewing, but they would sort of massage Moyes' ego. They would perhaps spot things in the game and pretend that maybe West Ham had been unlucky, pretend it was the fault of the referee, that West Ham's loss was perhaps, it was basically no fault of David Moyes'. And you had to do that with Moyes, right? We've all seen interviews where he's been, never mind Spike, he's been mean. He's been absolutely mean to journalists asking questions. And so you felt he had to do it. And in very much, I think David Moyes had to feel that the in-house media team, West Ham United TV, was a safe zone. Even if he was having a hard time being interviewed by whatever, Sky or TalkSport or anybody else, he knew that the guy asking the questions from West Ham was going to give him an easy time, basically. We've seen the same thing happen after Lopetegui during, I say last night, early this morning, with the loss to Wolverhampton Wanderers in the pre-season friendly. And basically, there was a similar question. Now I'm not going to pretend to have watched all the game last night. I didn't. It was meant to start at midnight. It ended up starting at 5 minutes past 2. I tried to watch it. I failed miserably. I took in bits and pieces of the game. I didn't actually go to bed until gone 4 o'clock. But I was falling asleep. It was the middle of the night. Anyway, but I do know that West Ham weren't very good, and I have also read Lopetegui's comments, and I know that Lopetegui doesn't think West Ham are very good. And I've tried to sort of garner as much information as I can before doing this video. And I just watched an interview with Lopetegui after the game. And it's the in-house one. It's on the West Ham website. You go and look at it if you want. It says, Lopetegui, we have a lot of work to do in front of us. The interviewer is obviously trying to look for some positives in a crap game of football where West Ham are poor. And he turned around, he says, Julen, I thought in the first half there was some... Basically, there were some times when we could really see what you were trying to do with a team. We saw your tactics coming through. He was trying to be positive. And Lopetegui turned around and said, no, not many, not much. And he wasn't being nasty to him. It wasn't mean throughout the interview. But you could see the guy was trying to blow smoke up his arse. Lopetegui was having none of it. He was basically saying, no, mate, what those players were doing there that's not. And this was a theme in what he said in the interview and in his written interview as well, which is, no, that's not what I want. That's not what I expect to see. That's not the Julen Lopetegui way. This is not good enough. And I like sort of the robust nature of his comments in that sense. And you got to be that. It's an old saying, which is the iron fist in the velvet glove. And I think we've seen the velvet glove quite a lot in terms of his interactions with the West Ham media up to now, with the fact that he's lets the cameras in there, with the fact that you get a real close-up of his interactions with the players and how he can be, really friendly, really charming and all that. That's the velvet glove bit. The iron fist, I think we're seeing it now, which is basically shape up or ship out. That stuff is not good enough, and I'm not having any of that. We're now seeing the dictator there, if you want, and I think this is absolutely quite right. There was no way he was impressed. He said that this needs to get significantly better within the next 3 weeks. Otherwise, we're going to be in trouble. And I make him absolutely right. I'm not reading too much into this, by the way. Let me get this right. I'm not reading too much into this pre-season friendly, but particularly one that I might have seen a third of as I was dozing off on the sofa and whatnot. However, I can read into what Lopetegui's reading into it, and he ain't impressed. There is absolutely no doubt now, I think, in his mind, and perhaps, whatever, in my mind or anyone else's mind, why this guy has been chasing a central midfielder. I don't think there's any doubt in my mind now that even if Flamengo had managed to come up with something palatable for West Ham in terms of an offer for Lucas Paquetá, there would have been no way that West Ham could have accepted that deal anyway, because we're in desperate need of some creativity. That much is clear. Sort of going back to Moyes, actually, I'd been really interested to see what he would have done this season. I didn't want to see it, and I wanted Moyes to go, and I wanted someone else to come in because of the rebuild. Remember I was saying it last season, I don't want to see David Moyes, West Ham, what would have been 4.0. It really would have been, because obviously he was here for the first stint. He basically already built 3 teams at West Ham because he refreshed it on his second stint. This would have been his fourth time, and I was never confident that he could get players in. But I'd been interested to see what he could do. Would he have highlighted the need for the central defender? He probably would. He liked buying a central defender, did Moyes. Would he have done the right back thing? Would he? What would he have looked at, in terms of central midfield? There's no doubt about it. Lopetegui does not think he has got the necessary players, and that much is clear. What the bits and pieces that I did notice was I thought we were clearly trying to pass it round at the back, between the centre-backs and whatnot, trying to keep possession. Then to actually break it into midfield and then play a cutting pass forward, I thought that's where we struggled. And I'm in no doubt at all that Paquetá coming back is going to be, a massive part of the missing link. Don't get me wrong, Edson Alvarez will be as well, but you have to remember Edson Alvarez is not going to be ready until, I think he might miss the first month of the season. So something's going to need to be done within that time, and something's going to need to be addressed. I don't know what conversations Lopetegui would have had now with Tim Stuyton, with David Sullivan or anybody else, but he'll want to wriggle on now. There's no doubt about that in my mind. I think he's been quite happy to play possum up to now. I mean, he even said before this game, look, Tim's been working hard. I speak with Stuyton daily, but he said, I don't want to focus on that now. Tim's with us here in Florida, and he's gonna, and we wanted to focus on the game, focus on the players that are here. I wouldn't be surprised if today he's saying, right, come on, let's get this sorted out. Get the right back done. Get the striker done. Get the central defender done. Get the central midfielder done. I mean, you could make the case that we possibly need. Well, not possibly. You can make the case we do need the 5 players, and they are the ones that we've been linked with, which is basically striker, left winger, central midfielder, right back, central defender. Now, again, it's not to be overly reactionary. I'm not angry about it in any way, shape, or form, but. And maybe there are ways where you could think, well, actually, possibly we don't. And you know what? With Alvarez back and with Paquetá playing as a number 8, or whatever, or Ward-Prowse plays number 8, Paquetá plays at number 10, I do think it cures our need and our necessity maybe to bring a midfielder in. That's what I think. Lopetegui won't agree. That's why he made an absolute solid bid for Alex Garcia, and he was phoning him up all the time. And that's why we have actually seen a bid go in from N'Golo Kante, although that's gone dead, isn't it? That rumour was weird, sort of popped up and it was doing the rounds, and it's sort of, you don't not heard a murmur the last 5, 6 days, 7 days about N'Golo Kante. There's something's going to need to be done here, and I think you'd also have to say the same with the striker as well. Now, look, as I mentioned yesterday, I don't overly blame West Ham for the inability to get that striker. I think when you start bidding £40 million for a player, look, I said it yes. I'm not going to repeat what I said yesterday. Whether West Ham go back and go in for Duran or not, if they didn't go in for him, I would understand why. But you better go and get someone else. You better go and get him quickly, because the team are going to need one. He cannot integrate Lucas Paquetá back quickly enough to get him into the team. He really can't. And at the moment, the need is so dire that he needs to do it pretty sharpish. It was very interesting, actually, listening to Lopetegui, one of his comments about the young players and about the squad. We'll get into it more tomorrow, but it is quite clear at the moment he feels he needs some senior players in there. The centre-back is going to need sorting. If a Gerd goes, the centre-back is going to need sorting. You understand why that's a priority. Right-back is definitely a priority at the moment. We look weak defensively. Don't get me wrong, Kilman's been a good signing, but I guess it would have been naive to think otherwise, right? We conceded the most goals we've ever conceded in West Ham's history of participation in the Premier League last season. And I guess it would have been foolish to think that one defender would sort it all out. you understand why he needs a central defensive partnership. I do believe, we spoke many times on this channel and other ones, I do believe that he'll be forming his opinions now, and there's a certain number of players, not worth going into it all now, because I think then we are reading too much into one result. It's not just a result, though, it's a performance, and he's reading the same into it, by the way. But there were certain players, 3 or 4 players, who a lot of us speculated probably wouldn't be able to play under Lopetegui, and it's just interesting to watch how that's going to start playing out. Now, and it'd probably be a little bit premature and a little bit mean for me to start picking out names, which obviously I don't want to do. There's much work to be done, but I want to say I don't think Lopetegui is completely innocent in all this. I think he now needs to stop this playing. I don't know how many players featured, but it seemed like they were, I don't know, it seemed like he played sort of between 20 and 25 players in yesterday's game. Last night's game, this morning's game, crikey, honestly, I'm still shattered. I've been falling asleep on the sofa all day still. I think he needs to, for the Crystal Palace game, start picking out what is his starting 11, because obviously he's got another friendly after that, then we've got the start of the Premier League. I don't think he needs to give everybody 45 minutes or whatever he's doing anymore. I think that's it. Let's try and get a cohesive style of play. Quite possibly start to figure out and think, and say to Nathan, look, mate, we've tried to get a central defender and we've not got one, and you're going to have to start. You're going to have to start next to Max. That's what you're doing. Knuckle down, sort it out. If your transfer comes in, great, then we'll sell you, get a replacement. But as it is, you're a West Ham player. And I think, certainly things like that need to be happening. He's going to need to, if Antonio is the guy that's going to start as striker, he's going to need, against Crystal Palace, to start Antonio, and so on and so forth. Bowen coming back is going to help, but I think we're going to need to see more of a starting 11 and more of a first team. And I'm pretty sure we will. But as I say, whilst all that's happening, I think there's going to be a lot of pressure from this manager and saying, look, you back me with Max Kilman, that's great. But I need more. I need more, and I need it now.